start our talk show off with love and affection. So, Cameron, what do you feel is an appropriate way to show affection to your significant other?
Anything they're comfortable with, so hand holding, kissing, like
Petting.
Getting a little intimate.
playing with hair, like
The
Yeah,
normal
like,
soapy teenage dramas.
yeah, honestly.
Any pretty much all of those, minus the groping in the hallway.
Yeah.
Okay, Jada, what in your opinion is too much affection?
Well, kind of going back to my little comment there, I feel like too much affection is if you're like groping, like you could, like if you could get her pregnant through those clothes, you're getting it.
In public.
Oh,
in
boy.
public. I mean, like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's...
Why would you do that in public?
You ever seen some people make out? Like, bro, they have a child. Immaculate conception.
Their
point.
tongue's deep.
Their
Oh,
tongues are
Oh,
in
yeah.
their soul.
Deep throat use the tongue.
Stop.
Okay,
Anyway, yeah.
Brent.
So that's kind of where I'm... Wait a second.
What? Huh?
Anyway,
I
continue.
don't need a headache tonight editing. Okay, Brendan, how do you like to be shown that you were loved?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm not really picky. I really accept anything as long as it's not too much and it's not weird or anything. It's not making me uncomfortable. I really doesn't matter to me. I'll take anything.
Okay.
I'll take what I can get.
Okay, now we're gonna go to an interview with Mr. Hoffman on his takes on love and affection.
Yeah.
What do you feel is an appropriate way to show affection to your significant other?
So for me, showing affection really depends on the location, the setting, the time, some of those types of things. Where we are and what the social situation is. Holding hands, making eye contact, that kind of stuff is definitely in public what I think is appropriate. The other thing to consider, appropriate way to show affection, there are things called love languages. I don't know if you guys have ever studied those or if you are aware of any of those things. My wife's love language is absolutely acts of kindness for her, so she very much is, what have you done for me lately, whether it's cooking or cleaning or picking up the laundry or those types of things. She's very much into what types of acts have I done for her.
In your view, what do you see is too much affection?
Yeah, and again, a lot of this depends on social situations. Anything that makes your significant other uncomfortable, in public. My wife is not a kissy, huggy person, so she does not enjoy that in public. So I certainly wouldn't do any of that kind of stuff. And also, just affection that's out of place. Something that's too overt or too much.
Okay, and then my final question for you is, how do you like to be shown that you are loved?
Yeah, so one of the things that's interesting when you and your partner have, you and your significant other have different love languages. Mine is not, acts of kindness. It doesn't really matter what my wife does for me in that manner. For me, mine is more words of affirmation and quality time. I like people spending time with me. I like feeling like I'm important, like I'm, the only one for them. So that's that for me. I appreciate feeling like I'm the center of attention, and that my wife wants to make time for me.
All right, thank you.
Jada,
Oh no.
how do you think you should adjust your personal life with each other after you have a kid?
Well, I mean, after you have a kid, you can't just go partying or doing whatever,
Doing
whenever,
your thing all night.
wherever. I feel like you have responsibilities, so yeah, you have to make time for your significant other, but I mean, you guys have a kid too, so you gotta, why are you staring at her like that?
She's staring off into space.
Okay, but yeah, it's kind of like, your kids are your life, but make sure that you pay attention to the person that gave you the child in the
So
first
like
place.
so like divide 50-50.
No, maybe
Well,
not 50-50,
75,
like
25,
50, like,
75.
maybe like 5,
25 to your
95.
significant other.
Yeah,
and
like
75.
5.95.
5.95.
That
Okay,
works too.
all right, Cameron.
Annabelle,
Oh, boy.
Annabelle.
how often do you think couples should talk about their sexual adjustments?
It really all depends on the situation. So, like, not all sexual adjustments are, like, have to involve a kid. It could be, like, getting married or, like, taking that next step in the relationship. And so it really all truly depends on where you're going in that relationship.
Makes sense.
Okay. And Brendan,
Yes.
what kind of adjustments should be made? Actually, no.
Uh-huh.
Actually, yeah.
Actually.
What
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
adjustments do you think should be made after having a child?
Wait, I thought you already asked that.
No,
Yeah.
it's
No.
how do you adjust your personal life with significant other is what he asked me.
Oh.
He's talking about like, what are you supposed to do after you have a kid? You can't just.
Oh, okay. Well, let's
Oh,
see.
like, oh my god! If you say something, I'm killing you.
That's pretty easy.
On the record.
So, don't, you don't want to be doing whatever it is you do all the time, and not necessarily supposed to be meant sexually, but just like in general. Like going out all the time and partying at your house and having all kind of people over.
Yeah.
Especially if they're a young child, because they're going to take whatever they're seeing and they're going to take that and they're going to start mimicking that.
Well, I would hope you didn't
Or
give
trying
birth
to,
to
at
a
least.
grown child.
Old people.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way.
Okay,
Okay.
Jada?
Okay.
Jada,
No,
shut up.
we're gonna go into Cameron's
Oh yeah, we're
interview.
gonna go into my videos with this one is with Mr. Morris, my counselor, about his views on this stuff. So,
You, I think Will Smith says it. You gotta think for your partner. A lot of times we think for ourselves going into relationships, and as you grow in a relationship, you really have to think more about them, and they gotta think about you. And so, really, that's the biggest adjustment. Now, how you do it depends on your partner. Depending on what they want, they're going to have certain needs. So I couldn't give you a blanket like, hey, this is what you got to do. You got to talk to your spouse and find out what their needs are and work for them.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a profound answer, but ultimately you got to think about them and what you want to do.
Right.
A lot of times early in relationships, we don't think about the other person that much.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Sweet.
What?
Okay, who's next?
Okay.
Who's next?
PDA.
Jada.
We're gonna talk about some
Oh,
PDA.
PDA is
So
interesting.
wait a second.
Calm down, Cameron.
So Cameron,
yes.
is PDA a sign that you don't really respect, intense PDA? That is it a sign that you don't really respect your significant other? Like if you're like getting them pregnant through their clothes in the hallway, do you feel like that's kind of like you're not showing respect that they deserve to them and their body?
To a point, yes, because I feel like too much PDA, especially in public, is bad. But if they are okay with it, then I feel like it's more okay and like less bad.
Well, you might get judged, but
Okay, Annabelle. Should PDA be whatever, like should there be like a social norm that people are like comfortable with, or should there be like limits? Like if him and his girl, it kind of makes two of them. Yeah, I was like, so should it like let's say him and his girl, they're perfectly fine with like heavily making out, but like Brendan's
that
over here
I see
like
that
just wants to
always.
hold her hand, and like do you think there should be like a limit
what do you
like to other people, or like should you have to worry about what other people like feel, or should you just worry about like how you feel?
You really should just worry about like how you feel, and as like I believe Cameron said, just making sure like that they're comfortable, and like if you push them past their limits, then it's gonna be a bad situation. But if you respect their limits, then everything will be fine.
Okay, all right.
Next.
Whatever your name, Brendan.
Okay, yes.
Brendan, do you think that you have to show PDA to kind of like show you're in a relationship? Like, do you have to be like, this is my girlfriend, and eat her
Tongue
face,
down her throat. Jeez.
eat her face? You're practically zombie. Yeah,
Not in every situation.
not in every situation. Okay.
And that could be a good thing, and that could also be a bad thing. But I mean,
Elaborate.
I don't want to elaborate on that. I really don't.
We're going to go into my interview with Baldwin. Welcome, Mr. Baldwin. We're going to be on the topic of PDA. So, first off, what do you think is the extent of PDA that's socially accepted?
So when you talk about that, and I know PDA is a hot topic, when you talk about what is socially acceptable, it really talks about an environment. And I like to use a grocery store reference, right? And there's two kinds of boundaries that are crossed, or one boundary that is crossed in two types of scenario. When I'm walking down the grocery store and we're in the cereal aisle, Am I necessarily going to notice somebody holding hands with their significant other or maybe pecking them on the cheek? Absolutely not. So I guess society would say that that is appropriate. But if I were walking down in the vegetable aisle and two people are full out making out and there's like a leg in the air and something crazy going on, absolutely that's going to be a distraction, and that's something that I would identify as that is not socially acceptable. So I think that's the extent. Is there's some personal stuff to that, but society also kind of dictates that a little bit and what you're comfortable with and how that goes. But I would say that scenario is a pretty guiding piece of, is it a distraction or is it not a distraction?
Okay. Should PDA be whatever the couple is comfortable with, or should it just be like the universal limit like you were discussing earlier?
First and foremost, PDA should, any display of affection between two people needs to happen at the couple's discretion, right? There needs to be consent, and they need to have an understanding and agreement that that is appropriate. That I think that is always the couple first. And I know we talked about maybe a reference is there's in a still pond, right? And PDA is the rock, and we throw a rock into the pond. The rock is that initial impact, and that is that couple component of it. And then the ripples that go out from it are going to be the distraction, the society acceptable piece. Am I that first ripple where I see that and I'm like, okay, like, I don't know if I would do that, but whatever. And then is that second ripple of grandma behind me that's like, oh my God! You know, so that's how those ripples go.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's necessary to display PDA to show somebody that you love them?
And again, that is, there's some research and some things along those lines as far as love languages and what that looks like, and I'm sure you guys will dive into that in your relationship classes. But I don't feel like that is again a couple's decision. I know for me personally, I've never felt the need when I'm with somebody that I am in a relationship with that I have to show off a display of affection to prove to the world that they are mine, or some sort of possessive intentions behind that. Whenever I'm in a relationship, I like to hold my fiance's hand. I like to show her that I love her dearly and she's the most important person in the world to me. So I think that's definitely couple dictated, but I don't think it's mandatory. I don't think if I were to advise youth and teenagers and young adults on what does it look like, I would say it's whatever you feel comfortable with. And if you feel like it's a possessive thing, then it is not appropriate. But if you feel like it's a mutual piece where you guys want to connect on that level, then I think that's appropriate.
Would you say that inappropriate PDA, like the supermarket example, would you say that shows that they don't seem to respect their significant other?
And again, that's tough because you look at that and maybe that was their appropriate boundaries, right? Maybe those are things that they have agreed to and they feel like that is appropriate. So, I don't know if that's more on something that I believe that when you're in a relationship and you're working with a significant other, that's something that once you address boundaries and you create boundaries, it's something that you always want to keep in conversation, right? And maybe that person is, yeah, the supermarket was great. I loved it when you were making out with me and your tongue was down my throat and all those things. I loved it. Or they're maybe like, hey, that was a little too much for where we were. I didn't really appreciate that. So there's a reflective component of that. And I think that that's very important for especially young couples and all couples actually to be able to sit back and reflect and understand what's kind of going on and how does that work for them as a couple, because that's most important, right?
My last question. For PDA, going back to you and your fiance and how you don't necessarily feel the need to show PDA to show that she's like yours or whatever.
Right.
Do you feel that should kind of be like the mentality that couples have? Like they should think that they don't have to show PDA?
Absolutely. Whatever people are comfortable with. Sometimes holding somebody's hand is a sense of security. You take away affection, right? And you don't even take away romantic affection, right? When I know, and this seems dark and morbid, but have you ever visited somebody in the hospital, right?
Yes.
And you've seen them in the hospital bed. What is one of the first things we do? We reach out and we hold their hand, right? And we let them know that we're there for them. So there's different, so does that make sense a little bit? There's different signs of what affection are. And sometimes some people just need their hand held. It has nothing to do with our romantic affection for each other or anything like that. Sometimes that is a security blanket, or as sometimes people need a hug.
Hey, and now it's time for the sex before marriage questions, which, pretty interesting questions. All right, so Cameron,
Yes.
Buddy.
do you think that sex before marriage should take precedence over growing feelings and maturity in their relationship?
No, because I feel like
Elaborate.
you should be in a relationship to grow feelings for that person, not just for their body and to, do hoo-ha.
Makes sense.
But yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
They're hot.
All right, Jada.
What?
How often do you feel people will have sex before marriage just so that they can go and tell everyone, and not pretty much, not everybody about it, but like friends?
Like they're girls like,
About
I
it.
just got like. Okay.
Yeah, and just go.
Okay. I feel like people do that a lot now, especially with sex. Like previously, sex was like not really like a holy thing, but it was like a special thing that you were supposed to only give your significant other. Now it's more like nobody.
Do you think that sex before marriage should take precedence over growing feelings and maturity in their relationship?
No, it should not take precedence over maturity and precedence in the relationship. It's just bad.
Okay. How often do you feel that people will have sex before marriage just so that they can tell all their friends about it?
Normally, most people would, some high schoolers, but like I don't feel like that it should be shown and said, but it does.
Okay.
A lot of people do it.
And then the last question, should sex before marriage be a punishable offense? And if so, how much trouble should they get into?
So, it should be noticeable for adults, but it shouldn't be punishable. If it's our age, like 15, 16, 14, yes, go right ahead, it should be punishable. For it is irresponsible and not, yeah, it's not supposed to happen, so yeah.
All right. Thank you.